morning, everyone. Look, I'm just want to say that I'm delighted to be here. This is really a major event celebrating the success of UK SMEs. Hopefully today it'll help to find a little bit more about what we do, and hopefully that will give you the confidence to go out and grow your business, to get the funding and to take your business to the next level. Today I want to do a few things. I want to tell you about the British Business Bank. I want to explain to you why BBB is so proud to support the UK's small and medium-sized businesses. I want to tell you a little bit about our programs, and then I want to highlight what we're doing here in the Midlands to help fund, as the slide says, funding growth in Midlands businesses. Okay, so in terms of just telling you a little bit more about the British Business Bank, we are the UK's economic development bank. We've been an independent PLC since November 2014, and the UK government is our sole shareholder and funder. As it says on the slide here, we've only been around since November 2014, and as I think you'll find out, we think we've had a pretty meteoric growth rate ourselves over the first 3 years. We now work with over 100 partners, and our goal is quite simple. We're here to improve finance markets for smaller businesses so that they can work more effectively and dynamically. And by providing that change in the marketplace, we think this will help businesses thrive and prosper and build the economy here in the UK. So, why do we support smaller businesses here in the UK? The first thing to point out is that there are over 5.5 million smaller businesses in the UK. Now, a lot of those will be zero employees, landlord type businesses, but there are a very, very active small business scene here in the UK. The second thing to point out is that the small businesses in the UK, they employ 15.6 million people. They're 99.9% of the UK businesses, and they create 60% of the UK's private sector employment and 47% of the private sector turnover. So what else can I tell you about the small business environment here in the UK? Things that we're really good at here in the UK are starting up businesses. We start up 400,000 to 500,000 businesses a year. That makes us in the top 3. We get into the Champions League if there was no ECD Champions League for starting up businesses. So that's great. Unfortunately, where we'll be struggling in the relegation zone is that we're 13th out of 14 companies who produce the statistics at scaling up businesses. That's something we want to change. Okay, so just a little bit more in terms of the bank and its objectives. What I'd like to tell you is, when you set up something new in government, you can find lots of people who want to tell you what to do. So it's very easy to get a little bit off message. So we've been very clear and very straightforward about our objectives, and we have 4 simple objectives. 1, we want to increase the supply of finance. 2, we want to create a more diverse marketplace, because after the financial crisis we ended up with perhaps too much reliance on 4 or 5 major banks. We think it's really important to make sure that there's better information out in the marketplace about the finance that's available and how you can grow your business, and that's why we come to events like this, to share the good messages about what's happening across the UK in terms of small businesses, funding them and growing them. And the 4th one, and government doesn't always do this, but government said this, we want you to do this and we want you to manage taxpayers' money efficiently. Of course I'd say that to everyone, but actually what they've said to us is we were given £1 billion of new capital when we set up 3 years ago, and said if you can make us a government-style return on that capital and actually deliver the benefits of the business bank while making money for government, then we'll have the benefits of the British Business Bank for free. That's not an easy ask to do, because we're accessing parts of the marketplace that are difficult to serve, and there can be losses there. So I'll tell you how we're getting on against that objective in a little while. So those are our 4 objectives. So just to tell you a little bit more about the UK's 5.5 million small businesses, this chart is to try to explain what has become quite a complex business. The British Business Bank works through 100 different partners, and we've 3 main pillars here. We've got our startup pillar, our scale-up pillar, and our stay-ahead pillar. And what do I mean by those 3 pillars? By those 3 pillars, I mean that there are businesses quite often who are very young. They're starting up, they're less than 2 years old, they're really looking for their first revenue. They may even be doing their R&D and haven't actually got revenue yet. So that startup pillar is really important. If you go over here, you'll meet our colleagues from the Startup Loans Company, which is now part of the British Business Bank. They've done a great job in funding over 50,000 businesses with £350 million of finance over the last few years. So I think, that Startup Loans Company, that Startup Loans product is essential for that strong league table performance that we have in the startup community. But then let's look at what we're doing in terms of the scale up. Those businesses want to grow really rapidly. I'll give you a case study in a little while about the Angel Co-Fund, which is a program we're extremely proud of that invests alongside business angels, private individuals who are going to bring their money and their expertise and invest it into UK startups. We have a very successful program called our Enterprise Capital Fund, where we invest in early stage venture capital funds that can invest up to £5 million in early stage businesses. But their average ticket size is probably between £1 and £2 million, helping businesses really grow, take that next step forward. Elsewhere in our venture capital business, we have a VC Catalyst business where we've made 9 investments, and given some of the changes that are happening in the potentially post-Brexit environment, we're investing a lot more into those later stage venture capital funds that are investing 5, 10, maybe even more into businesses. We also have a Help to Grow program where we're putting debt finance through people like Lloyds and Oak North. But then of course you've got businesses who are just staying ahead. They're perhaps a bit more mature, they're maybe going through a buyout, a change of ownership, the next stage of their growth. And again, it's very important that the right funding ecosystem is there for those businesses. So we have a wide range of programs. We have an investment program where we invest commercially into alternative finance, and we have 20 or 30 different delivery partners there. We have our Enable programs where we put a lot of asset finance money into smaller asset finance programs. We guarantee bank debt from challenger banks. And we have our long-standing enterprise finance guarantee where we do about 250, 300 million pounds a year of loans of less than £1 million for businesses that wouldn't otherwise get the finance because they don't have the assets to back the loan and the bank wouldn't otherwise support them. So looks like I've broken the mic. Sorry about that. I feel like a stand-up comedian, but we'll see how we go from here. So I was saying that the Enterprise Finance Guarantee helps us to help small businesses that don't get the funding that they otherwise would because they don't have the asset finance. So as you can see, there's no single solution that the British Business Bank is deploying to change the marketplace. We need to put a lot of seeds out there to help the growth across the UK economy. And I think so far, as you'll see from our statistics, we're beginning to have a really decent impact. But I've talked to you about the 3 vertical pillars. Let me talk to you about the 3 blue cross-cutting themes that we're doing as well. I'm going to tell you quite a bit today in terms of our regional funds and our regional programs. We have a Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund, a Midlands Engine Investment Fund, and now we're going to be doing something down in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. So what we're doing here is that funding will help businesses are starting up, scaling up, and some businesses that are staying ahead. But again, we're doing it in a regional focused way through a specialised fund, and I'll tell you more about that, but because I think there are some businesses, particularly here in the Midlands, who could do with a bit more support and some better focused funding to take them forward. The next 2 cross-cutting themes are really about finance referrals. We've got alternative business funding out there who are one of the new referral platforms that if you're turned down by the bank should say to you, okay, we can't help you, but you might want to go onto this online platform to have a shop around, see what other type of finance might be available. And again, we're seeing some really interesting stats, some really interesting hundreds of SMEs getting finance, and they've already been turned down by the first provider they went to. So I think that's a pretty powerful referral scheme. And we're also sharing better data through credit agencies on SME credit, so better credit decisions can be made. So again, 3 vertical pillars, 3 cross-cutting themes, but the bottom line, excuse the pun, is that we are resulting in increased business investment, growth and jobs, so making the UK economy stronger. So what I've just given you there is a complex picture of what we have in the UK, which is great to see. We have a pretty diverse finance marketplace, lots of different types of finance out there. Of the 5.5 million businesses that are out in the UK, they're all slightly different. They might have a different need for a different form of finance. So it's really important, still way too many businesses go to their relationship bank and say, can I have my funding? If they get knocked back, maybe their growth ambitions get knocked back a little bit. And I think that's the wrong thing to happen. What they should do, and they should probably pick up this guide or go through some of these online platforms first, have a shop around, see what's out there. We work through 100 different finance partners. We've worked with 22 different organizations, from the British Bankers Association, the CBI, the Institute of Chartered Accountants. All of these people want small businesses to grow because it's good for the economy, it's good for their membership. So we've delivered this business finance guide. It's really easy to understand. It's written by experts. Takes you through the steps that you need to go through to raise the finance. We've now distributed to close to 1 million businesses in online and hard copy format. We relaunched it last year with enhanced digital content, so you can go in and search around the country what your business needs are, and you'll get some clues, some signposts as to where and go and find that finance. So I would commend that finance guide to you. But back to my football analogy, how are the scores and the doors? We're almost 3 years old. How are we doing against the 4 objectives I discussed earlier? Number 1, we're not doing too bad in terms of getting finance into the marketplace. Through our programs, we've grown from about £5 billion of finance. There were some existing programs that government was running that we've consolidated and improved. So we've taken that £5 billion stock of finance up to 7.5 and on to 9.2 billion. So that's not a bad outcome. We said we'd try and get to 10 billion of finance within our first 5 years. We're making some good progress. We also said that our second objective was about getting greater diversity into the marketplace. When we started out, we had 79% of our finance going through the non-Big Four banks. That's now risen to 94%, again, trending in the right direction. We want to promote better finance in the marketplace. That's a really hard one. If you sit around our board table and say, this information objective, KPI 3, how do we judge that? We have a dashboard of measures. But if we just look at the awareness of different forms of finance, that's going from 48 to 50%. Remember what I said earlier, that lots of businesses are just looking for traditional bank finance and not shopping around? As I've shown on an earlier slide, there's a lot of different types of finance out there. And then that fourth and tricky objective of how do we do this? The government has asked us to try and return government's long-term cost to capital, maybe a bit over 2%. We actually made 3.9% last year. You can pick up our annual report and accounts. We made over £50 million of profit for you, the taxpayer, and delivered all these benefits. So we're pretty proud of that as well. Okay, we're standing here in Birmingham today. It's great to see thousands of people here to see how they can go about growing their business. So how are we, the British Business Bank, helping businesses here in the Midlands? With our national programs, all those programs I was showing you earlier, we've helped almost businesses here in the Midlands with almost £1.2 billion worth of finance. 5,500 businesses are currently supported through our programs. I think that's a pretty good track record early into our life. There's 780,000 businesses here in the Midlands, but lots of those are happy non-borrowers. So again, we're having a material impact. I mentioned earlier, and I see colleagues from the Startup Loans Company here, we put £48 million into 7,500 almost businesses here in the Midlands to help them start up and grow. And I'll give you a little bit more in terms of some case studies on those businesses in a second. So let me just do that, and let me take you into a little bit of a deep dive around some of the businesses that we've helped. And I'm going to do a case study for each of the businesses that example business that we've done. So here we have, hopefully I'll say this right, Kokoso Baby. And you're going, okay, what type of business is this? This is a couple. Their names are Lauren and Mark Taylor. And they said, do you know what? There's a gap in the marketplace for natural products to help young children with, dry skin, skin problems, etc. And they said, well, we think that coconut oil is a really good thing. And, so they developed that product. Took them a little bit of time to develop the product. Coconut oil, it isn't refined, bleached, tinkered with in any way. And it absorbs better into children's skin and apparently has a really good impact and is a very popular product. But you go with a new and innovative idea like that to the bank and they sort of say, no, I don't think that'll work. But they They went to their startup loans provider, which is the Coventry and Warwickshire Reinvestment Trust, and said, hey, we've got an idea here. We want to grow this business. And they didn't just ask for the money. What comes with the startup loans program is mentoring, advice, how to put a business plan together, how do they put a mentor onto them. I'm just trying to remember the mentor's name. He was, guys, they put a mentor onto a guy called Robin Underhay, and he's worked with them over the last couple of years to build that business. How are they doing? They're doing fantastically well. They're now stocked in over 200 Boots stores around the UK, and their turnover is growing really, really rapidly. And a quote from the founders here, just to give you a sense. They say, as with many new pre-profit businesses, it can be challenging to convince a bank to lend startup capital. And this is where CWRT stepped in. CWRT listened, got excited by the potential in our business plan, and offered advice and support. And that's worth a lot to new business. We had support throughout the whole loan application process, from advice in writing a business plan to creating financial forecasts. So you just think of that as a case study. That's the type of business that may well have been turned away from conventional finance providers, but the good work that startup loans have done has meant that that business has grown from strength to strength. Let me give you an example now of a business that is really seeking to scale up and really to provide something that will maybe make a huge difference to thousands of women around the world. This business is called Fertility Focus. It's based in Coventry. It's developed some really leading technology in terms of to help with women healthcare issues, particularly those who struggle with ovulation, and this meter and device helps with that. Now, obviously, to get a product like that licensed to go to market, it takes quite a bit of work to get through the testing processes, etc. So we have an angel co-fund where we fund it. Now, the angel co-fund has invested about £72 million in about... it's invested, £35 million in about 70 different businesses. So it gets in and makes early stage equity investments alongside the angels. So if someone's trying to raise £500,000, the angel co-fund can put in half of that. So what's happened with Fertility Focus is that they've done 2 funding rounds over the last couple of years. They've raised £2.1 million, and the angel co-fund has put in about a third of that money, $700K, and that business is now launching products that really could make a worldwide impact and really could scale up and be a really significant business around the world. Let's go back to your more conventional and traditional businesses. Our Stay Ahead case study is Applied Radiators. It's in Stoke-on-Trent. It was founded in 1994. It renovates everything from car radiators to whatever it is on the back of that truck, but it looks after radiators and cooling devices for all types of mechanical machinery. Specialized engineering business, employs about 17 people. I said it was founded in 1994. The original founders were stepping down. They were going, the founders wanted out. The existing management team thought this is a really good business. It does what it says in the tin, and it works really, really well. But could they get funding to, fund the next stage of the company's development? No. So what they did is they went to a partner of ours, ABN Commercial Finance, and they gave them a loan for £500,000 secured on their assets. And, that loan went through a couple of years ago, and the quote from the business team there is, since taking over, we've changed nothing. We've hired a few staff, we've kept our business alive and afloat, but we've taken the business to the next stage. They're paying back the loan, they're building the business, they're adding turnover, they're adding employees. It's not a 20% growth story per year. It's not going to create a global product, but that business has got finance that it wouldn't have otherwise got, and goodness knows where it would be without that support. So again, just an example of the diversity of the things that we're doing through the British Business Bank, and that's a good Stay Ahead case study. So I give you the good news in terms of the 1.2 billion that we've put out through our national programs. But about 12, 18 months ago, we were asked to come and work with a range of stakeholders here in the Midlands to see if we could create something really specialised and focused. I talked about 780,000 businesses in the Midlands. If you actually do the statistics, it's about 14% of the high growth businesses, those that are growing at 20% plus, are here in the Midlands. But does the Midlands get 14% of the equity finance or 14% of the high growth debt finance? No, it doesn't. So there is an obvious market gap, and we were asked to come in to see if we could put a fund together to take this forward. It was a complex process to put that fund together. We were asked to work with the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, DCLG, and then the 10 local enterprise partnerships. And again, they'd been looking at creating funds, maybe in the East Midlands and the West Midlands, but couldn't quite get the structure to work. So we came in, and I remember coming down here about 18 months ago and saying, look, we can bring, if you all contribute your ERDF, European Regional Development Funding money, we, the British Business Bank, will put in 32.5 million of our own money. We can top that up with EIB. So we put together a fairly complex capital structure of £250 million. We agreed an investment strategy with the Strategic Oversight Board representing those 10 LEPs. And we've gone out and done a procurement exercise to put some fund managers in place to deliver this £250 million fund. So those funds are set up as 10-year limited partnerships. We can extend them if we feel it's right. And they're going to invest this £250 million over the next 5 years. So in terms of the investment strategy that we put together, we determined with our colleagues, having listened, I gave a talk the other day at the launch of the fund in Nottingham, we really, really listened to what is needed here in the Midlands. And the colleagues here in the Midlands wanted us to have an equity lot, putting in investments of up to £2 million, but really focusing on those early stage tickets. 20% of them will be under 250k, 70% will be under 750k. And I have colleagues here from the Strategic Oversight Board and the LEPs who helped us do that. We then said we want to put some debt in for those businesses that are, looking for 100 to 1.5 million pounds. And again, we're doing that in smaller ticket sizes. Again, if you go out to stand E42 here, you can meet colleagues here delivering the small business loans, 25 to 150k. I talked about the startup loans program, up to £25,000, up to 2 years. Does it mean that after 2 years those businesses find it easy to find finance? No, it doesn't. So these small business loans, microfinance funds are helping those businesses that are maybe 3, 4, 5 years into their development and just need that next stage of capital. But then the fourth lot that we introduced in the Midlands Engine Investment Fund was our early stage proof of concept fund. If you go to the other stand just behind here, you'll meet Innovation Birmingham, who have got 150 high growth innovative businesses who are trying to prove their technology, take their businesses forward. You've got, I was at one presentation recently and people said there were 20, 22 or 25 universities in the Midlands. I think the right number is 22, but don't hold me to that. There are also 20 science parks. There's a great culture of innovation here in the Midlands, and people are trying to grow their businesses, to develop some world-leading technology. But again, it's very hard to get the equity finance. So we put together a early stage proof of concept fund. All the investments in that will be under 750k, and 50% of them will be under 250k. So there's really, quite high risk, but some of those businesses will doubtless go on to do great things. So those are the four lots that we've put together. So where do we stand now? I'm delighted to say that at the end of the summer there, just at start of September, we managed to appoint the debt lots of £120 million. There will be a £50 million debt fund managed by Maven, focusing on the West Midlands. Maven also won the competition to issue £40 million of debt into the East Midlands. We've BCRS, colleagues are on the stand with us today, who will do that 17 million of the microfinance in the West Midlands. And then we've got Enterprise Loans, East Midlands, who'll do £13 million loan. So again, a great diversity of funding. Again, these funders will help probably 2,000 to 3,000 small businesses over the next 5 years, on top of what we're doing through our national programs. And we're expecting to appoint the equity managers later this autumn before Christmas. We've just had to go through the procurement process a little further. So, in terms of summary, what I've told you today is that we have helped businesses here in the Midlands with about £1.2 million of finance. I've told you a lot about the business finance guide. I've told you the £120 million that we're putting out through the debt lots, and our plans to do £250 million. Is that the end of our ambition? Absolutely not. I stood up last week with the chair of the D2N2 LEP, and he said, if Sir John Peace was here today, he'd say he wants the business bank to do another £1 billion fund in the Midlands. And I'd say, Well, if he was here, he would say that because I was with him yesterday and he said that he wanted us to do a £1 billion fund. So there's no lack of ambition here in the Midlands. There's no lack of ambition here in the British Business Bank. And I think hopefully you'll see from what we've said today that there is some really exciting possibilities to take your businesses here in the Midlands, fund them, take the growth forward. So all I'll say to you is that my colleagues are here in the stand and I'll be around for a while on stand E42. We're happy to take you through. Our colleagues from Startup Loans are beside us in the next stand. My colleague David English, who's from the Startup Loans Company, is here at 12 o'clock to tell you how to market your business. At 1 o'clock tomorrow, there's a group session where you'll meet the funders and they'll talk you through in a bit more detail the funding that they'll provide, what they're looking for. But they're also in the stand, so if you're not here tomorrow, just go and have a chat with them. So that's all I wanted to tell you today, but I think there really is some really high growth businesses here in the Midlands. There's a great amount of ambition, and our ambition is to help those businesses with funding so they can reach their growth potential. And I'm very happy to take any questions. Thank you very much. Any questions? I'm happy to answer anything in public forum, or I'll be around and have a little bit of chat. Sorry.
Is it what? Thank you. My name's Tom Lindup. I work for a company called Division SBA. It seems pretty clear that in terms of size of companies, you work from anything effectively from zero. I was wondering about what about the other end? What is the sort of typically the largest size company in terms of principally turnover that you work with?
I think that's a great question, Tom. In terms of when we were set up, government had taken various interventions where, basically the banking system froze in 2009, 2010. So we have a program called the Business Finance Partnership, where government committed £863 million to 6 mid-cap debt providers. They will lend to businesses with turnover up to £500 million. They'll issue tickets on average between 10 and £20 million. A lot of those will be private equity backed. So again, there's a lot of bigger businesses. So of the £9.2 billion that we're doing, about £3.8 billion, I think I've got that figure right, is to the SMEs. So those businesses, 250 employees or less, or £43 million of turnover. But actually we've then got £5.4 billion that are going to those medium-sized businesses. And again, what's changing in the UK landscape at the minute is obviously as we move towards Brexit, people like the European Investment Fund, although they'll hopefully will continue to fund, and they've been major funders and we've worked very well with them over the many years, is that they put about £600 million into the UK, into later stage venture capital, etc. As they step back, we're very happy to step forward. And you might have seen the Chancellor's Mansion House statement where he said that he was happy for us to accelerate £400 million of funding he gave us in the last autumn statement to fill that gap. And our venture capital pipeline is very, very busy indeed. And again, there's also a patient capital review going on across government at the moment where Damon Buffini and an industry panel are looking at that. We're closely working with that. So you're absolutely right. You've got exactly the message I was going. We're here to help on every step of the landscape, from the startup to the businesses 2-3 years that needs a couple of 100,000, to the venture capital business that needs a couple of million, to the medium-sized business that really might need an even bigger check of many £1 million. So we're there to hopefully we'll get every step in the ladder. Thanks a lot. Any other questions? So I thought you were just taking your hand back there. Okay, well look, I'll let you enjoy the day. There's a lot of fascinating stands out there. Do come and visit stand at E42, and if there's anything we could do, thank you very much indeed. Cheers.